Maya Chen stood outside the tall iron gates of Riverside Academy and took a deep breath. The building looked like something from a movie. It had white columns, perfectly cut grass, and students walking around in expensive clothes. She looked down at her own outfit. Her jeans were clean but old. Her backpack had a patch sewn on where it had torn last year. She felt small. Her mother had worked 3 jobs to keep them going after they lost their house. When the scholarship letter came, her mother had cried happy tears. "This is your chance," she had said. "This school will change your life." Maya wanted to believe that. But standing here now, watching girls with designer bags laugh together, she was not so sure. The first bell rang. Maya walked through the gates and followed the signs to the main office. The secretary barely looked up when she handed Maya her schedule. "Room 204, Mrs. Wellington, you're late." Maya checked the clock. She was 5 minutes early, but she did not argue. She just nodded and walked away. Room 204 was on the 2nd floor. Maya found it easily. Through the small window in the door, she could see students already sitting down. They all looked comfortable, like they belonged. Maya opened the door quietly. "You must be our new student," a voice said. The teacher stood at the front of the room. She was a white woman with gray hair pulled back neatly. She wore a cardigan and a pearl necklace. She smiled, but something about it did not reach her eyes. "Class, this is Maya?" "Maya," she said quietly. "Maya Chen." "Right, Maya. Find a seat, please." There were 2 empty seats. One was in the front row next to a friendly-looking girl who smiled at Maya. The other was in the back corner by the window. Maya started walking toward the front seat. "Actually, Maya, take the seat in the back. That one is saved," Mrs. Wellington said. Maya looked at the empty chair. No bag sat on it, no books. But she did not argue. She walked to the back and sat down. The desk was old and wobbly. Someone had carved words into the wood. From here, she could barely see the board. Mrs. Wellington started the lesson. She talked about English literature and asked questions. Hands shot up constantly. She called on students by name. "Excellent point, Bradley. Very thoughtful. Madison." The students seemed to know exactly what she wanted to hear. Maya raised her hand when Mrs. Wellington asked about symbolism in the book they were reading. Maya had read it 3 times at her old school. She knew this subject well, but Mrs. Wellington's eyes passed right over her. She called on a boy in the front instead. He gave an answer that was close to what Maya had wanted to say. "Wonderful, Jonathan," Mrs. Wellington said. Maya kept her hand up. Mrs. Wellington asked another question. Again, her eyes skipped over Maya. She called on other students. One girl gave an answer that was completely wrong. "Interesting interpretation, Sarah," Mrs. Wellington said kindly. Maya put her hand down. She felt confused. Maybe the teacher had not seen her. The back of the room was far away. She decided to try again. The next question was about theme. Maya knew the answer. She raised her hand high and even leaned forward. Mrs. Wellington looked right at her this time. Their eyes met. Then the teacher looked away and called on someone else. It happened again. And again. By the end of class, Maya had raised her hand 12 times. Mrs. Wellington never called on her once. When the bell rang, students filed out. Maya gathered her books slowly. The friendly girl from the front row stopped by her desk. "Hi, I'm Jasmine. Are you okay? You look upset." "I'm fine," Maya said. "Just nervous. First day." Mrs. Wellington can seem strict, but she's actually really nice once you get to know her. "Everyone loves her. She wrote my sister's college recommendation letter and it was amazing." Jasmine smiled. "Want to have lunch together?" "I can show you around," Maya agreed. At least someone here was kind. As they walked out, Maya glanced back at Mrs. Wellington. The teacher was erasing the board and did not look up. Lunch was overwhelming. The cafeteria was huge and loud. Jasmine introduced Maya to her friends. They were nice enough, but they talked about things Maya did not understand. Ski trips, summer homes, cars their parents had bought them for their 16th birthdays. Maya ate her sandwich and mostly listened. The afternoon classes were better. The math teacher called on her and seemed impressed by her answers. The history teacher smiled when she contributed to the discussion. Maya started to relax. Maybe the morning had just been a strange coincidence. But the next day in Mrs. Wellington's class, the same thing happened. Maya raised her hand. Mrs. Wellington ignored her. On the 3rd day, Maya decided to try a different approach. When Mrs. Wellington asked a question, Maya just started speaking without raising her hand. "Excuse me," Mrs. Wellington said sharply. "We raise our hands in this classroom. That's basic courtesy. I did raise my hand yesterday, and the day before," Maya said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I call on students when I see appropriate participation," Mrs. Wellington replied. Her voice was cold now. "Perhaps you should focus on listening and learning rather than demanding attention." Several students turned to look at Maya. She felt her face get hot. She did not speak again for the rest of class. That Friday, they had their first essay due. Maya had worked hard on it. She had always been good at writing. Her old English teacher had told her she had talent. She wrote about the symbolism in the novel they were reading. She included quotes and analysis. She proofread it 3 times. The essays came back the following Wednesday. Maya opened hers and stared. D-. There was red ink all over the paper. Simplistic analysis. Lacks depth. Questionable understanding of the text. Maya felt sick. She looked at the paper next to hers. The girl named Madison had gotten an A. Maya glanced at Madison's essay. It was shorter than hers. The analysis was basic. But at the top, Mrs. Wellington had written, "Excellent work." After class, Maya approached Mrs. Wellington's desk. Her hands shook slightly. "Mrs. Wellington, I was hoping I could talk to you about my essay. I don't understand what I did wrong." Mrs. Wellington looked up. She did not smile. "The grade speaks for itself, Maya. You're at a very competitive school now. The standards here are much higher than what you may be used to. You'll need to work harder if you want to succeed. But I did work hard. I spent hours on this. Can you tell me specifically what needs improvement?" Mrs. Wellington sighed like Maya was bothering her. "The whole essay needs improvement. The thinking is not sophisticated enough. Perhaps you should consider getting a tutor. Now I have another class coming in. Please go." Maya left. In the hallway, she looked at her essay again. She read every comment. None of them made sense. The criticism was vague and did not match what she had actually written. It felt wrong. It felt deliberate. But who would believe her? Mrs. Wellington was beloved at this school. Parents requested her specifically. The principal had mentioned in the welcome assembly that she had been teaching here for 15 years. She had won awards. Maya was just the new scholarship student. The poor girl who did not fit in. The one who wore old clothes and could not talk about ski trips. That night, Maya sat at the tiny kitchen table in their small apartment. Her mother came home from her shift at the grocery store. She looked tired. Maya did not want to worry her. So when her mother asked how school was going, Maya just said, "Fine, it's good." But it was not good. And Maya had a terrible feeling that it was only going to get worse. She looked at the D- again. Something was very wrong at Riverside Academy, and somehow Maya knew she was going to have to figure out what it was all by herself. 2 months passed. Maya kept a notebook now. She did not plan to at first. It just started happening naturally. After each class with Mrs. Wellington, she would write down what happened. Who got called on? Who got praise? Who got ignored? The pattern was clear. Mrs. Wellington called on the same students over and over. Bradley, Madison, Jonathan, Sarah, Emma. All of them were white. All of them came from wealthy families. Their answers were not always correct, but Mrs. Wellington always found something positive to say. Good effort. Interesting thinking. You're on the right track. There were 28 students in the class. Maya had counted. 4 of them were students of color. Maya, who was Chinese American, Kevin, who was black, Amara, who was Indian American, and Luis, who was Latino. Mrs. Wellington rarely called on any of them. When she did, her tone was different, sharper, less patient. Maya noticed other things too, small things that added up. Mrs. Wellington had rearranged the seating chart after the first week. Now all 4 students of color sat in the back row. Better classroom flow, she had said. But the flow seemed designed to keep certain students out of sight. During group projects, Mrs. Wellington assigned the groups. Maya always ended up with the weakest students, not because they were not smart, but because Mrs. Wellington had already decided they were weak. She gave them easier topics, shorter presentation times, lower expectations. "I don't want to overwhelm you," she would say, like she was being kind. But it felt like she was limiting them on purpose. The grades were the worst part. Maya worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. She spent hours in the library. She revised her essays multiple times. She studied until late at night. And still, she could not get higher than a C. Meanwhile, Madison turned in essays that were barely 2 pages long and got A's. Bradley copied information straight from websites and called it research. He got a minus at worst. When Maya pointed out a factual error in Jonathan's presentation, Mrs. Wellington said, "Let's be supportive of our classmates." Maya. But Mrs. Wellington was never supportive of Maya, or Kevin, or Amara, or Luis. One day in October, Maya finally talked to her friend Jasmine about it. They were eating lunch in the cafeteria. Maya had been holding it in for weeks, but she could not anymore. "Can I ask you something? Do you think Mrs. Wellington treats everyone the same?" Maya asked carefully. Jasmine looked surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, have you noticed that she calls on some students more than others?" Jasmine thought about it. "I guess she calls on people who participate a lot. You just need to speak up more." "I try," Maya said. "I raise my hand all the time. She doesn't call on me. Maybe she doesn't see you in the back. She looks right at me sometimes, then calls on someone else." Jasmine frowned. "That seems weird. Mrs. Wellington is really fair, though. She's won Teacher of the Year 3 times.
Maybe you're just not raising your hand at the right times."
Maya felt frustrated, but she did not want to lose her only friend at this school. Maybe I'm probably just adjusting, but Maya knew it was not about adjusting. She saw the same thing happening to Kevin. He was smart, maybe the smartest student in the class. He read books that even the teacher had not heard of. But when he shared ideas in class, Mrs. Wellington would say things like, "Let's keep our responses focused, Kevin," even when he was being perfectly clear. One day, Maya stayed after class to ask a question about the homework. Kevin was there too, waiting to talk to Mrs. Wellington. The teacher was putting papers in her bag. She looked annoyed that they were both there. Kevin spoke first. "Mrs. Wellington, I was wondering if I could do my project on a different book. I already read the one on the list, and I thought it would be better to challenge myself with something new." Mrs. Wellington did not even look at him. "The assignment is the assignment, Kevin. Everyone else can follow directions. I expect the same from you. I'm not trying to avoid work. I just thought, are you arguing with me?" "No, Then we're done here." Mrs. Wellington picked up her bag and walked toward the door. She stopped when she saw Maya. "Did you need something?" Maya had a question about a grade, but suddenly she did not want to ask. She shook her head. "Never mind." After Mrs. Wellington left, Maya and Kevin stood in the empty classroom. Kevin looked angry and hurt. Maya understood the feeling. "She hates me," Kevin said quietly. "I don't know why, but she does." "She treats me the same way," Maya said. Kevin looked at her. Really looked at her. "I thought I was imagining it." "You're not." They talked for almost an hour. Kevin told her about his experiences over the past 2 years. He had Mrs. Wellington last year, too. Same thing. Low grades no matter how hard he worked, ignored in class. Treated like he was not smart enough to be there. His parents had complained to the principal. The principal had said Kevin needed to apply himself more and respect authority. "But I do apply myself," Kevin said. "I get A's in every other class, just not hers." Maya told him about her notebook, the patterns she had noticed. Kevin nodded at everything. "It's not in your head," Maya said. "It's real." "But who would believe us?" Kevin asked. "She's Mrs. Wellington, everyone loves her." That was the problem. Mrs. Wellington was perfect at playing her role. In parent conferences, she was charming. At school events, she volunteered. She brought cookies for the staff room. She stayed late to help students who asked, but only certain students. The right students, Maya decided to talk to her parents. That night at dinner, she told them everything. Her mother and father listened carefully. They were good people who had always taught Maya to work hard and be respectful. But they also trusted schools. They trusted teachers. "Maybe you need to try harder," her father said gently. "This is a very good school, the best. Maybe the work is just more difficult than what you're used to." "I am trying hard, Dad. Harder than I've ever tried. And I see other students doing less work and getting better grades." "Are you sure?" her mother asked. "Sometimes it can seem that way, but you don't know how much work they do at home." "Mom, I know what I'm seeing." Her parents exchanged a look. Maya recognized it. They thought she was complaining. "They thought she was making excuses, Maya," her mother said carefully. "This scholarship is a big opportunity. We can't afford to make problems with the school. Just do your best. Keep your head down, work hard. That's how you get ahead. Maya wanted to scream, but she did not. She just nodded and went to her room. Her parents meant well. They were protecting her the only way they knew how. But keeping her head down was not going to fix this. The next week, something happened that made everything worse. The class had to give oral presentations on their reading. Maya had prepared carefully. She practiced her speech 10 times. She made note cards and dressed in her best clothes. When it was her turn, she stood at the front of the room. She was nervous, but she spoke clearly. She made good points about the themes in the book. She even made people laugh once. When she finished, several students clapped. Maya looked at Mrs. Wellington. The teacher was writing notes. She did not smile. She did not say anything positive. When Maya sat down, she felt proud of herself anyway. She knew she had done well. Madison went next. She stumbled through her speech. She forgot parts of it. She said about 50 times. When she finished, Mrs. Wellington smiled warmly. Well done, Madison. I can see you put real thought into that. The presentations were graded the next day. Maya got a C. Madison got an A-. Maya looked at her rubric. Under delivery, Mrs. Wellington had written, lacked confidence and polish. Under content, she had written, surface-level analysis. None of it was true. Maya had been confident. Her analysis had been deep and detailed. She looked at Madison's rubric on the desk next to hers. Under delivery, it said, showed authentic engagement with material. Under content, it said, demonstrated genuine understanding. Maya felt something break inside her. This was not about working harder. This was not about adjusting to higher standards. This was about something else, something unfair and ugly and wrong. After class, Maya walked to the principal's office. She did not have an appointment, but the secretary let her wait. After 20 minutes, Principal Harris called her in. He was a middle-aged white man in a suit. He smiled kindly. What can I do for you, Maya? Maya told him everything. She spoke carefully and tried to stay calm. She explained the pattern of being ignored in class. She talked about the grades that did not match her work. She mentioned that Kevin and other students of color experienced the same thing. Principal Harris listened. He nodded occasionally. When Maya finished, he was quiet for a moment. Maya, I appreciate you coming to me with this. It shows maturity. But I have to tell you, Mrs. Wellington is one of our finest teachers. She's been here for 15 years without a single complaint. I'm complaining now, Maya said. I understand, and I hear you. But Riverside Academy has very high standards, much higher than most public schools. It's natural to struggle at first. Many students find the adjustment difficult. This isn't about adjustment. This is about being treated differently. Principal Harris's smile faded a little. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Maya thought about her notebook. But what would it prove? That Mrs. Wellington called on some students more than others? That could be explained away. I have my grades. My essays. November came with cold rain and gray skies. Maya felt like the weather matched her mood. Things were getting worse, not better. After her meeting with Principal Harris, Mrs. Wellington seemed even more critical. It was like she knew Maya had complained and was punishing her for it. The next big assignment was a family heritage project. Students had to research their family history and present it to the class. Maya was actually excited about this one. Her grandmother's story was incredible. She had immigrated from China with almost nothing. She had worked in factories, saved money, and eventually opened a small restaurant. She had survived hardship and discrimination to build a better life for her family. Maya spent 2 weeks on the project. She interviewed her grandmother. She found old photos and documents. She researched the history of Chinese immigration to America. She created a beautiful poster board with a timeline and pictures. She wrote a speech that told her grandmother's story with respect and detail. The day of presentations arrived. Maya felt nervous but prepared. She had practiced her speech until she knew it by heart. This time, she would show Mrs. Wellington what she could really do. This time, the grade would have to be fair. Bradley went first. He talked about his ancestors coming over on the Mayflower. His presentation was okay. Nothing special. But Mrs. Wellington smiled the whole time. Wonderful job, Bradley. Such important history. 3 more students went. Then it was Maya's turn. She stood at the front of the class with her poster board. She began her speech. My grandmother came to America when she was 19 years old, Maya started. She left China during a difficult time. She came here with one suitcase and $20. She didn't speak English. She didn't know anyone. Maya was 2 minutes into her speech when Mrs. Wellington interrupted. Maya, can you speak up, please? Maya was speaking clearly. She knew she was. But she raised her voice a little. She worked in a garment factory for 12 hours a day. Maya, I need you to cite your sources. Where did you get this information? From my grandmother. I interviewed her. But how do we know it's accurate? Family stories can be exaggerated over time. Maya felt her face get hot. It's her life. She lived it. Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mrs. Wellington's smile was tight. I'm just asking for verification. Continue, but please keep it brief. We have many presentations to get through. Maya tried to continue, but she was shaken. She stumbled over her words. Every minute she expected Mrs. Wellington to interrupt again. When she talked about the discrimination her grandmother faced, Mrs. Wellington asked, "Do we need to focus on negative aspects?" When Maya mentioned the restaurant her grandmother built, Mrs. Wellington said, "Let's not turn this into a commercial." By the time Maya finished, she felt terrible. Her beautiful project felt ruined. She had been interrupted 6 times. No other student had been interrupted even once. When she sat down, she could feel tears starting. She blinked them back. She would not cry in front of everyone. She would not give Mrs. Wellington that satisfaction. The next presenter was Madison. She talked about her family's vacation home in France and how her great-great-grandfather had been a diplomat. The research was thin. Most of it was just family stories. No sources, no verification. Mrs. Wellington did not interrupt once. At the end, she said, "Absolutely lovely, Madison. Your family has such rich history." Maya could not take it anymore. The unfairness was too much. As soon as the bell rang, she grabbed her things and rushed out. She did not wait for Jasmine. She just walked fast down the hallway. She needed to get away. She needed to be alone. She found the bathroom on the 2nd floor. It was usually empty during passing period. She went into a stall, closed the door, and finally let herself cry. All the frustration and anger and hurt came out. She cried quietly, trying not to make noise. After a few minutes, she heard the bathroom door open. She held her breath, hoping whoever it was would just leave. But then she heard a gentle voice. "Hello? Is someone in here? Are you okay?" Maya recognized the voice. It was Mr. Rodriguez, the janitor. He must have been cleaning nearby and heard her. She wiped her eyes and tried to sound normal. "I'm fine. Thank you. You don't sound fine if you don't mind me saying." Maya came out of the stall. Her eyes were red and puffy. Mr. Rodriguez was an older man with kind eyes. He had always been nice to her, smiling and saying hello in the hallways. Now he looked concerned. "Bad day," Maya said. "It's nothing. Nothing doesn't usually make people cry like that." He paused. "Is it Mrs. Wellington?" Maya looked at him in surprise. "How did you know?" "I've worked at this school for 20 years. I see things. I notice things. Nobody pays attention to the janitor, so they act like I'm not there." He leaned against the sink. "I've seen how she treats certain students. Students who look like you. Like me. You've seen it too?" Maya felt a rush of relief. Someone else noticed. She was not crazy for years. It's always the same. She's nice to some students, cold to others. The pattern is pretty clear if you pay attention. Mr. Rodriguez shook his head. "I tried to say something once about 5 years ago. Mentioned it to the principal at the time. He told me I was mistaken. Told me to focus on my job and not worry about teaching matters. The current principal told me I was being oversensitive. That sounds about right. They protect their own. Mrs. Wellington brings in donations from wealthy parents. She makes the school look good. They're not going to believe someone like you or me over someone like her." Maya felt despair wash over her. "So there's nothing I can do? I just have to accept it?" "I didn't say that." Mr. Rodriguez looked at her seriously. "I said they won't believe us easily. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting. It means you have to be smarter about it. You need proof. Real proof. The kind they can't ignore or explain away." "What kind of proof?" "I don't know exactly. But I know you're smart. You'll figure it out." He smiled. "Don't let her break you. That's what she wants. She wants you to give up and leave quietly like the others did. Don't give her that satisfaction." "What others?" Mr. Rodriguez looked sad. You're not the first student of color who struggled in her class. Over the years, I've seen at least a dozen. Smart kids, good kids. They couldn't take it and transferred out. Their parents thought they just couldn't handle the academic pressure. But I knew better. Maya felt sick. This had been happening for years. How many students had Mrs. Wellington pushed out? How many futures had she damaged? Thank you for telling me, Maya said. Thank you for believing me. Of course I believe you. I see you raising your hand in that classroom. I see her looking right past you. I see the way she talks to you compared to others. He straightened up. Now dry those eyes and get to your next class. And remember, you belong at this school just as much as anyone else. Don't let anyone make you feel different. Maya went to the sink and washed her face. When she looked in the mirror, her eyes were still a little red, but she looked stronger somehow. Having one person believe her made a difference. She was not alone in this. That night, Maya could not stop thinking about what Mr. Rodriguez had said. She needed proof. But what kind of proof? Her notebook had patterns, but that was just her observations. She needed something concrete, something undeniable. She thought about it for hours. And then, as she was getting ready for bed, an idea came to her. Her phone. She had a phone with a recording function. What if she recorded the classroom? What if she captured Mrs. Wellington's voice on tape, showing the difference in how she spoke to different students? It felt scary to even think about. Was that allowed? Was it legal? Could she get in trouble for recording without permission? But then she thought about everything that had happened. The unfair grades, the constant dismissal, the interruptions during her presentation, the way Mrs. Wellington had questioned her grandmother's story like it didn't matter. Maya picked up her phone and looked at the voice recording app. It would be easy. She could start a recording and just leave her phone on her desk. The microphone was good enough to pick up voices from across the classroom. But was she really going to do this? It felt like crossing a line, like admitting that normal channels would not work, that the adults in charge would not help her unless she forced them to listen. Maya remembered what Mr. Rodriguez had said about other students, kids who had left because they couldn't take it anymore, kids whose potential was wasted because one teacher decided they did not deserve a fair chance. She made her decision. Tomorrow she would start recording. She would document everything. And maybe, just maybe, she could collect enough evidence that someone would have to listen. The next morning, Maya felt nervous as she walked into Mrs. Wellington's classroom. Her phone was in her backpack with the recording app already running. She had tested it at home. It worked perfectly. She could hear voices clearly even when the phone was buried under books. She sat down in her usual seat in the back. She took out her notebook and textbook like normal. Her heart was beating fast, but she tried to look calm. Mrs. Wellington was at her desk sorting papers. She did not look up when Maya entered. The class started like usual. Mrs. Wellington asked questions. She called on the same students as always. Maya raised her hand and was ignored as always. But now it was being recorded. Now there would be proof. For the next month, Maya, Kevin, and Amara became a team. They met every week at the library to share what they had found. Each of them started recording classes. They documented grades. They saved emails. They took pictures of graded assignments. Slowly, they built a case that was impossible to ignore. Kevin found something important. He asked his parents to request his academic records from the school office. When they arrived, he noticed something strange. In Mrs. Wellington's class, his grades had been going down every quarter. But in every other class, his grades were A's and B's. The pattern was clear in black and white. Amara did something brave. She asked her parents to meet with Mrs. Wellington for a conference. During the meeting, Amara's mother asked why her daughter's grades were so much lower in English than in her other classes. Mrs. Wellington's response was recorded by Amara's mother on her phone. Some students just aren't as naturally gifted in English, Mrs. Wellington had said. Amara works hard, but she lacks the natural understanding that comes easily to other students. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Not everyone can excel at everything. But Amara had gotten perfect scores on the state English exam the year before. She had won a writing contest in middle school. She loved reading and wrote poetry in her free time. Mrs. Wellington's explanation made no sense. Maya focused on comparing assignments. She asked Jasmine if she could look at some of her graded essays. Jasmine agreed, thinking Maya wanted to learn from her work. What Maya actually wanted was to compare the grading standards. She laid Jasmine's essay next to hers. Both were about the same book. Both were approximately the same length. Maya's had more quotes, deeper analysis, and better organization, but Jasmine had received an A-. Maya had received a C+. Maya took pictures of both essays with her phone. The difference in grading was obvious. The comments from Mrs. Wellington were completely different in tone. For Jasmine, she had written things like thoughtful interpretation and shows real engagement with the text. For A, Maya, she wrote needs more development and misses key themes. But Maya had not missed the key themes. She had understood the book perfectly. The comments were not based on the actual work. They were based on something else. The three students also started looking into the past. They asked other students if they knew anyone who had left Riverside Academy. Kevin remembered a boy named Marcus who had transferred out 2 years ago. He found Marcus on social media and sent him a message. Marcus responded quickly. "Mrs. Wellington made my life miserable," he wrote. "I spent a whole year in her class getting C's and D's even though I was pulling A's and everything else. My parents thought I was just being lazy. When I transferred to another school, my English grades went right back up. My new teacher even entered one of my essays in a competition and I won. But at Riverside, Mrs. Wellington made me feel stupid every single day." They found 2 more former students with similar stories. Both were students of color. Both had struggled only in Mrs. Wellington's class. Both had left the school thinking they were not smart enough. Both had done well at their new schools. The evidence was piling up. But Maya knew they needed to be careful about their next step. Going back to Principal Harris would not work. He had already dismissed her concerns. They needed to go higher. They needed someone who would actually investigate. Maya did research online. She learned that schools had to follow certain rules about discrimination. There were laws that protected students. There were people whose job was to make sure schools treated everyone fairly. She found the contact information for the school board. These were the people who oversaw the whole district, including Riverside Academy. But before she contacted them, Maya wanted one more piece of evidence. Something that would make the case absolutely clear. She had an idea, but it was risky. She decided to write an email to Mrs. Wellington. In the email, she would ask for specific feedback about how to improve her grades. She would be polite and respectful, and she would see how Mrs. Wellington responded. Maya spent an hour writing the email. She wanted it to be perfect. She explained that she was working very hard but struggling to meet Mrs. Wellington's expectations. She asked for specific examples of what she was doing wrong. She requested a meeting to discuss her progress. She sent the email on a Monday evening. Mrs. Wellington responded the next day. The email was short and cold. "Maya, the issue is not about specific examples. You need to improve your overall critical thinking skills and your ability to engage with complex texts. This is not something that can be fixed with simple corrections. I suggest you spend more time reading and less time making excuses for your performance. If you cannot meet the standards of this class, perhaps you should consider whether Riverside Academy is the right fit for you." Maya read the email 3 times. It was perfect evidence. Mrs. Wellington was suggesting that Maya did not belong at the school, not because of any specific academic problem, but because she could not meet the standards. Meanwhile, students with weaker work were getting A's and praise. Maya forwarded the email to Kevin and Amara. They were shocked by how harsh it was. Kevin wrote back, "She basically told you to leave." "That's not okay." "That's really not okay." Maya's mother happened to see the email that evening. She had been checking Maya's school account to look at the parent portal. When she read Mrs. Wellington's message, her face changed. "What is this?" her mother asked. "Why is your teacher saying you should leave the school?" Maya's heart pounded. This was the moment. She could tell her mother everything now. But would her mother finally believe her? "Mom, I need to show you something." They sat at the kitchen table. Maya opened her laptop and showed her mother everything. The recordings. The graded assignments. The comparison with other students' work. The messages from former students. Kevin's and Amara's experiences. The pattern that had been clear for months. Her mother listened to the recordings with her hand over her mouth. She looked at the graded assignments with growing anger. When Maya finished explaining everything, her mother's eyes were wet with tears. "Why didn't you tell me all this sooner?" her mother asked. "I tried. You said I needed to work harder. That I needed to keep my head down. I was wrong." Her mother's voice shook. "I was so wrong. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if you just stayed quiet and worked hard, everything would be okay. But this teacher has been hurting you this whole time. And I didn't believe you." Her mother pulled Maya into a hug. They both cried. When her father came home, her mother showed him everything too. He was furious. He wanted to go to the school right away and demand that something be done. But Maya stopped him. "We can't just go in angry. We need to do this the right way. We need to go to the school board. We need to make a formal complaint." "I've been researching how it works." Her parents looked at her with new respect. Maya had been handling this mostly alone for months. She had been collecting evidence, building a case, and planning her next steps. She was 15 years old, but she was acting like an adult. "Okay," her father said. "We do it your way. But we do it together. You're not alone anymore." The next day at school, Maya told Kevin and Amara that her parents were involved now. They decided it was time to move forward. That evening, Maya's mother sent an email to the school board. The email was carefully written. It explained the situation clearly. It mentioned that multiple students were experiencing the same treatment. It attached some of the evidence as examples. It requested a formal investigation. The school board responded within 2 days. They said they took the complaint seriously. They would be opening an investigation. They would be interviewing students and reviewing records. They asked Maya's family to send all the evidence they had collected. Maya, Kevin, and Amara spent a weekend organizing everything. They created a document that laid out the whole case. They included transcripts of the recordings. They attached photos of graded assignments. They included the messages from former students. They wrote a timeline showing the pattern of behavior over months. When they were done, the document was 40 pages long. It was professional and thorough. It was impossible to dismiss. They sent it to the school board. And then they waited. A week went by. Then 2 weeks. During this time, things at school got very strange. Someone must have told Mrs. Wellington that there was an investigation, because she suddenly changed her behavior. She started calling on Maya in class. She gave her better grades. She smiled and acted friendly, but it was too late. The pattern had already been documented. The damage had already been done, and Maya knew this sudden change just proved that Mrs. Wellington had been treating her unfairly all along. If she could be fair now, why had she not been fair before? Kevin noticed the same change. "She's trying to cover herself," he said. "She knows she's in trouble." Meanwhile, word was spreading through the school. Students were talking. Some people supported Maya. Others thought she was causing trouble. Jasmine stopped sitting with her at lunch. Other friends suddenly became distant. Maya had expected this, but it still hurt. One day, a girl Maya barely knew approached her in the hallway. "I heard about what you're doing," the girl said. She was white, from a wealthy family, one of Mrs. Wellington's favorites. Maya expected her to say something mean. The news spread through Riverside Academy like fire. By the next morning, everyone knew that Mrs. Wellington was under investigation. Students whispered in the hallways. Parents called the school demanding answers. The local newspaper got wind of the story and sent a reporter to ask questions. Mrs. Wellington did not come to school that day. Or the next day. The administration released a statement saying she was on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. A substitute teacher took over her classes. Maya walked through the school feeling like everyone was staring at her. Some students looked at her with respect. Others glared at her like she had done something wrong. One boy actually said to her face, "And you're trying to destroy a good teacher's career." Maya just kept walking. She was done trying to make people understand. But then something unexpected happened. More students started coming forward. A girl named Lisa, who had graduated 2 years ago, heard about the investigation. She contacted the school board with her own story. She had been one of Mrs. Wellington's students. She was Latina. She said that Mrs. Wellington had given her low grades and written her a terrible college recommendation letter. Lisa had ended up going to a community college instead of the university she had hoped for. Now she was wondering if Mrs. Wellington's letter had ruined her chances. Then another former student came forward. And another. Within a week, the school board had been contacted by 12 former students. All of them were students of color. All of them had similar stories. Low grades despite hard work, dismissive treatment in class, bad recommendation letters that damaged their college prospects. The pattern went back more than 10 years. Mrs. Wellington had been doing this for a long time. And because she was skilled at hiding it, because she was charming to parents and administrators, Because she chose vulnerable students who could be easily dismissed, she had gotten away with it. The school board called an emergency meeting. It was open to the public. The auditorium was packed with parents, students, and community members. News cameras lined the back wall. This was no longer just a school issue. It had become a community issue. The lead investigator presented his findings to the full board. He showed the evidence. He played some of the recordings that Maya had made with her permission. The auditorium was silent as they listened to Mrs. Wellington's voice. The way she spoke to Maya compared to other students. The dismissiveness. The clear difference in tone and patience. Then he showed examples of graded assignments. He displayed Maya's essay next to Madison's essay on a large screen. Both were about the same book. Both were the same length. But the grading and comments were completely different. Anyone could see the unfairness. This is just one example, the investigator said. We have dozens more. The pattern is undeniable. Then he read some of the emails that had been found on Mrs. Wellington's computer. The room gasped when they heard the words. The racist comments. The complaints about diversity students. The jokes that were not funny at all. They were hateful. When he finished, the room erupted. Parents shouted questions. Some people defended Mrs. Wellington, saying the evidence was taken out of context. But most people were angry. They were angry that this had been allowed to happen. They were angry that their children had been harmed. They were angry that the school had not caught it sooner. One parent stood up. He was a white man in an expensive suit. Maya recognized him as Bradley's father. She expected him to defend Mrs. Wellington, but instead he said, I'm ashamed. My son has been in Mrs. Wellington's class. He's gotten A's. I thought it was because he was smart and worked hard. But now I'm wondering if it was because of what he looks like. If that's true, then those A's don't mean anything. And I want to know what this school is going to do to fix this. Other parents nodded. The conversation shifted. It was no longer about whether Mrs. Wellington had done something wrong. The evidence was too clear. Now it was about what consequences she should face and how the school could make things right. The school board deliberated for 2 hours behind closed doors. When they came back, the chairperson spoke. We have reviewed all the evidence presented by the investigation. We find that Mrs. Patricia Wellington has engaged in discriminatory behavior that violates school policy, district regulations, and federal civil rights law. Effective immediately, Mrs. Wellington's employment with this district is terminated. She will not be returning to Riverside Academy or any other school in this district. The auditorium erupted again, this time with mixed reactions. Some people clapped. Others shouted in protest. Maya sat with her parents and felt numb. Mrs. Wellington was fired. It was over. But somehow she did not feel victorious. She just felt tired. The chairperson continued speaking. We also recognize that the harm done extends beyond Mrs. Wellington's current students. We will be reaching out to all former students who were affected. We will be reviewing and correcting grades where appropriate. We will be offering to write new recommendation letters for students whose college applications may have been harmed. And we will be implementing new oversight procedures to ensure this never happens again. After the meeting, reporters surrounded Maya and her family. Maya's father told them they would not be making any statements. They just wanted to go home. But as they walked to their car, a woman approached them. She was about 30 years old and had tears in her eyes. Are you Maya? She asked. Maya nodded. I was Mrs. Wellington's student 15 years ago. I'm Vietnamese American. She made my life miserable. I ended up dropping out of Riverside and finishing at the public high school. I always thought it was my fault. I thought I just wasn't smart enough. The woman's voice shook. But hearing what she did to you, seeing that it wasn't just me, it's like a weight has been lifted. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. You saved other students from going through what I went through. The woman hugged Maya. Other people came up to share similar stories. Former students who had been hurt by Mrs. Wellington. Parents who wished they had known sooner. Community members who thanked Maya for exposing the truth. By the time they got home, Maya was exhausted. But she also felt something else. She felt like she had done something important, something that mattered. The next day at school was strange. Mrs. Wellington's classroom had a new teacher, a young black woman named Ms. Johnson. She introduced herself to the class and said, I know this has been a difficult time. I want you to know that this is a fresh start. In this classroom, everyone will be treated fairly. Everyone's voice matters. Everyone belongs here. Some students seemed relieved. Others still looked angry. Maya noticed that Bradley and Madison and some of the other students who had been Mrs. Wellington's favorites seemed uncomfortable. Maybe they were realizing that their good grades had not been earned fairly. Maybe they were questioning everything they had been told about their own abilities. During lunch, more students approached Maya. Some apologized for not believing her. Others thanked her for speaking up. Jasmine came over looking guilty. "I'm sorry I didn't support you," Jasmine said. "I should have listened. I should have believed you. I was so used to thinking Mrs. Wellington was perfect that I couldn't see what was really happening." "It's okay," Maya said. "I understand. It's hard to see something when you're not experiencing it yourself. But I should have tried harder to see it. I should have paid attention." Jasmine paused. "Can we still be friends?" Maya smiled. "Yeah, we can still be friends." The following week, the school board announced more changes. Principal Harris was being asked to resign. He had failed to investigate Maya's initial complaint properly. He had dismissed a student's concerns without taking them seriously. The board said his lack of action had allowed the discrimination to continue. A new principal was brought in. She was a woman named Dr. Martinez. She had worked at diverse schools and had a strong record of supporting all students. One of her first acts was to meet with Maya, Kevin, and Amara personally. "I want to apologize to you on behalf of this school," Dr. Martinez said. "What happened to you should never have happened. You deserved better. You deserve better. I'm here to make sure that Riverside Academy becomes the kind of school that truly values every student." She explained new policies that were being put in place. Teachers would be evaluated on how they treated all students, not just some. There would be regular reviews of grading patterns to catch bias. There would be an anonymous reporting system for students to raise concerns. And there would be mandatory training for all staff on recognizing and preventing discrimination. But I also want you to know that you shouldn't have had to fight this hard to be treated fairly, Dr. Martinez said. "The adults in this building should have protected you. We failed. I'm going to make sure we do better." Maya appreciated her words, but she also knew that words were not enough. The real test would be whether things actually changed. Meanwhile, the story continued to grow. The local news ran several reports about the case. A regional education reporter wrote a long article about how discrimination can hide in plain sight at prestigious schools. The article talked about how schools often focus on test scores and college admissions, but ignore whether all students are being treated fairly. The article mentioned Maya by name with her family's permission. Spring came to Riverside Academy with cherry blossoms and warmer weather. Maya had been at the school for almost a full year now. So much had changed since that first nervous day when she walked through the iron gates. The school looked different to her now, or maybe she looked at it differently. The building was still impressive with its white columns and perfect lawn. But Maya no longer felt intimidated by it. She belonged here just as much as anyone else. She had proven that. The aftermath of the investigation continued for months. The 3 teachers who had been part of Mrs. Wellington's network were also fired after the expanded investigation confirmed their involvement. The school board brought in outside consultants to review policies and procedures. Every teacher at Riverside had to go through extensive training on bias and discrimination. Some teachers welcomed the changes. Others resented them. Maya could tell which teachers thought the whole situation was overblown. But she also noticed that even those teachers were more careful now. They knew they were being watched. They knew that students had power to speak up and be heard. The school created a new position called student advocate. This person's job was to listen to student concerns and investigate complaints. The first person hired for the job was Mr. Rodriguez, the janitor who had encouraged Maya when she was at her lowest point. He was given an office and training and a salary increase. He was perfect for the role because he actually listened to students and believed them. Maya visited his office one day. "I can't believe they gave you this job," she said with a smile. "That's amazing," Mr. Rodriguez laughed. "I can't believe it either. After 20 years of pushing a mop, now I have a desk and business cards. But I'm going to do this job right. No student is going to be ignored like you were." "You believed me when no one else did," Maya said. "That made all the difference." "You did the hard part," Mr. Rodriguez said. "You stood up for yourself. I just told you not to give up." The college recommendation letters became a major part of the healing process. The school board hired an independent counselor to review every letter Mrs. Wellington had written in the past 10 years. They identified 32 students who had received letters that were biased or unfairly negative. The school reached out to all of them. Some of those students were now in college or had already graduated. The school offered to write new letters explaining what had happened. They offered to contact colleges and universities on the students' behalf. They could not undo the past, but they could try to make things right. Lisa, the former student who had gone to community college instead of her dream schools, was one of the people who benefited. The school wrote her a new recommendation letter and contacted the universities she had originally applied to. 2 of them offered her the chance to transfer with scholarship support. At age 20, Lisa finally got the opportunity Mrs. Wellington had tried to take from her. She sent Maya a message. "You changed my life. I thought my dreams were over. Now I'm going to State University in the fall. Thank you for being brave enough to fight back." Maya was happy for Lisa, but she also felt sad. Lisa had lost 2 years because of Mrs. Wellington. Those years could not be given back. And there were probably other students who had been hurt but never came forward. Students who gave up on their dreams and never knew it was because of a biased teacher, not because of their own abilities. As the school year came to an end, Riverside Academy held a special assembly. Dr. Martinez, the new principal, stood at the podium and addressed the whole school. "This year has been difficult for our community," she said. "We have faced hard truths about ourselves. We have learned that being a good school is not just about test scores and college admissions. It's about treating every student with dignity and fairness. It's about creating an environment where everyone can succeed." She talked about the changes that had been made, the new policies, the new training, the new commitment to equity and inclusion. Then she did something unexpected. "I want to recognize 3 students who showed extraordinary courage this year. Maya Chen, Kevin Williams, and Amara Patel, please come to the stage." Maya's heart pounded as she walked up with Kevin and Amara. The auditorium was full of students and teachers. She felt nervous but also proud. Dr. Martinez continued. "These students saw something wrong and had the courage to speak up. They documented evidence carefully and persistently. They did not give up even when adults dismissed their concerns. Because of them, we are now a better school. Because of them, future students will have a better experience at Riverside Academy." She presented each of them with a certificate and a scholarship for college. The auditorium erupted in applause. Most students were clapping genuinely. Some still looked uncomfortable or angry, but that was okay. Change was never comfortable for everyone. When Maya returned to her seat, Jasmine hugged her. "I'm so proud of you," Jasmine said. "You're like the bravest person I know." Maya smiled. She did not feel particularly brave. She had just done what needed to be done. But she appreciated her friend's support. The last few weeks of school were busy. Finals, end-of-year projects, and preparation for summer. Maya was exhausted but also relieved. She had survived her first year at Riverside Academy. And not just survived but made it through while fighting the hardest battle of her life. Her final grades came in. She had a 3.8 GPA. Her lowest grade was in history, where she got a B+. In English with Ms. Johnson, she got an A. Ms. Johnson wrote on her final report card, "Maya is one of the most talented writers I have taught. Her analytical skills are exceptional. She has a bright future ahead of her." Maya compared that to what Mrs. Wellington had written on her mid-year report card. "Student needs to improve basic comprehension skills. Shows limited potential for advanced work." The difference was shocking. Same student, different teacher, completely different evaluation. Maya kept both report cards. She wanted to remember. She wanted to remember what discrimination looked like. She wanted to remember how it felt to not be believed. And she wanted to remember that she had found the strength to fight back. Summer came and Maya got a job at the local library. She needed to help her family with money, and she also loved being around books. One day, a girl about 12 years old approached her at the reference desk. "Are you Maya Chen?" The girl asked shyly. "Yes, I am. I read about what you did at your school. I'm starting at Riverside Academy next year on a scholarship. I'm really nervous. But knowing what you did makes me feel like maybe I can belong there too." Maya looked at this young girl and saw herself from a year ago, nervous, uncertain, hoping for a chance. "You absolutely belong there," Maya said firmly. "And if anyone ever treats you unfairly, you speak up. Right away. Don't wait. Don't doubt yourself. You have just as much right to be there as anyone. But what if no one believes me? Then you document everything, just like I did. And you keep speaking up until someone listens, because you matter. Your education matters. Your future matters, the girl smiled. Thank you. I'll remember that. As summer progressed, Maya started preparing for her college applications. She had dreamed of applying to top universities, but after the year she was not sure her grades were good enough. Mrs. Wellington's low grades from the first semester had hurt her GPA, but then she got a letter from the school board. They had decided to remove all of Mrs. Wellington's grades from student transcripts. Students could choose to replace those grades with their grades from Ms. Johnson's class, or they could simply have those months marked as affected by discriminatory grading. See attached explanation. Maya chose to have an explanation attached. She wanted colleges to know what had happened. She did not want to hide it. The explanation letter, written by Dr. Martinez, detailed the situation professionally. It explained that Maya's grades in the first semester had been affected by a teacher who was later terminated for discriminatory practices. It included Maya's corrected GPA and noted her excellent performance in all other classes. When Maya started writing her college application essays, she knew what her main essay would be about. She wrote about the experience of standing up to discrimination. She wrote about finding her voice when adults did not listen. She wrote about the importance of documentation and persistence. She wrote about learning that one person really can make a difference. It was a powerful essay. Her mother cried when she read it. Her father said it was the best thing Maya had ever written. Ms. Johnson helped her polish it and said, "This essay will open doors for you." Admissions officers don't just want to see good grades. They want to see character. You've shown incredible character. Maya applied to 10 universities, including some of the most competitive schools in the country. She also applied to the university where Lisa was transferring, because she liked the idea of being at the same school as someone who understood what she had been through. While she waited for responses, Maya continued her advocacy work. She spoke at more schools and conferences. She was invited to testify before the state legislature about a new bill that would create better protections for students who report discrimination. Standing in the state capitol building speaking to lawmakers, Maya felt like she was part of something bigger than herself.